Assalamualaikum and good day to everyone. Welcome back to our subject EAMG 3123 Program Development and Management in Early Childhood Education. This week will be our week 2 and we will be looking at unit 2 which is licensing, credentialing and also accreditation. So before we go further, let's look at the learning outcome for this unit. So by the end of this unit, you are expected to be able to do one, two, three, four, five, six learning outcome. Okay, so the first one, you're expected to be able to explain why licensing is important for keeping children safe and ensuring good quality childcare in Malaysia. Second one, to describe how comparing with best practices help improve early childhood program. Thirdly, to identify the Malaysian rules and law that childcare and preschool must follow. Number four, for you to be able to outline the steps to get a license for childcare center or preschool in Malaysia. And then next, for you to be able to explain what accreditation is and how it helps center provide higher quality services. And then finally, for you to be able to describe why professional qualification and certification are important for teachers and caregivers. Okay, so we start with why licensing matters. Okay, so as we all know, all center that is operating in our country or anywhere, they need to have a license. So licensing is the minimum legal requirement for any center, especially in our discipline, the early childhood center, TASCA or TADIKA. Okay, so for them to operate, they must have a license. So license is the minimum legal requirement. Okay, so license. Okay, it main purpose mostly it's to protect children health safety and also their well-being. So in Malaysia, tasca centers or the childcare centers are monitored by the JKM, while the tadika centers are overseen by the KPM. Okay, by having a license, okay, licensing it will ensure that children are cared for in a safe environment. Okay, also by trained staff and under clear rules and procedure. Okay, having a licensing also ensure minimum standards of care. Okay, so have a license. Okay, it will set a basic standards that every center must meet before they are operate. So whenever you want to apply for a license, each of the respective ministry will give you a list of requirement that you need to fulfill, and then only they'll approve your license. Okay, therefore having a license means that you already met the basic standard of to operate. Okay, so this will include building safety, the hygiene, staffing, supervision, also the children daily routine. So without a license, center might probably operate unsafely because the basic standards is not being met. Okay, so licensing also provide accountability for the center, meaning center owners know and they have to follow the rules. Okay, otherwise they will face for penalties such as fines, warning, or probably could to the extent of closure. Okay, so again, okay, having a license it will provide accountability for the program operators. Okay, so what licensing covers? Okay, so there's a lot of things that licensing cover. So these are just some of it. One of the aspect is staff child ratio. Okay, so staff child ratio ensure that each child will receive adequate supervision and care. For example, okay, if an infant, we know that they will require more attention than the toddler or the preschoolers. Therefore, our ministry or overseen by the JKM, they will set a clear ratio, okay, which is specifically meant to prevent overcrowding or any unsafe supervision. Because we know that poor ratio will increase the risk of accidents, okay, and also reduce the quality of care. Okay, for example, for an infant under the age of 12 months, the ratio will be one caregiver to three infant. Or another example for toddler, one caregiver to five toddlers, and then to preschool age, which is 3 to 4 years old, one teachers or one caregiver to 10 preschoolers or 10 kids. Okay, now let's look at the physical environment and also the health and safety procedure. Okay, so in licensing also, it requires the center to have a safe physical environment, which is including secure fencing, clear spaces, and also a child safe equipment. So you cannot have anything that could cause harm to the children. All right, everything have to be safe, even to the extent to the furniture and equipment. Okay, health and safety procedure will include a proper hygiene, food handling, emergency drills, and illness management. So this measure will reduce the health risk and also ensure children daily safety. On top of that, okay, staff qualification. Okay, so staff qualification, qualified staff are also very, very important for a quality program or quality early childhood education. Okay, for TASCA, okay, TASCA caregiver, at least they must complete the Permata childcare course. Okay, while the TADIKA, they at least need to have diploma or degree in early childhood education. Okay, so having staff qualification will ensure educators understand about child development, understand about their safety, and also any related ethical practices lah. Okay, moving on to benchmarking. Okay, so what is benchmarking? What does benchmarking means? Okay, so benchmarking means that we are comparing the current practices to the best practices. Okay, so what is our current practice? We compare it to what is the best practices that has been the best practices that has been signed, or what is the standard practice. Okay, so center will reflect on their performance, okay, by comparing themselves with the recognized frameworks such as Permata, KSPK, or any educational model like Montessori or ISO. Okay, so having benchmarking can help a center to see where they stand and what they can improve. Okay, so why it is very, very important for us to have a benchmarking? Okay, why benchmarking is very important? One of the reason is because it helps us to identify any gaps in our services, any gaps in our program, okay, such as updated materials or probably weak safety practices, or maybe limited staff training. Okay, so by addressing these gaps, a center can improve program quality, learning environment, and management practices, moving towards a higher standards. Okay, so it can help to improve program quality. Okay, moving on to licensing regulation. So licensing regulation are regulation that sets by the national or the local authority. Okay, so this can include the Child Care Center Act 1984, Child Care Center Regulation 2012, all right, or maybe any regulation by the local council, permits, bomber, the firefighters, okay, fire safety rules, the KKM, all right. So all of these regulation, okay, must be complied before anyone could open or could operate their center legally. So it's mandatory compliance lah. Okay, every program must meet all the requirement before they can operate. So no center can operate legally without obtaining a license from their respective ministry lah, either JKM or KPM. Okay, on top of that, in order to ensure that we adhere to the regulation, okay, inspection and monitoring should be conducted. Okay, government officers will conduct a regular or a surprise inspection, okay, to ensure that all centers will remain compliant, right? There are no use to have a regulation if there is no enforcement. Therefore, we need to have a regular monitoring. Okay, so this monitoring will be done by the officers. Okay, so inspections will help every parties to identify any risk, okay, in early stage, okay, and ensure that standards are consistently maintained, not only during application. So in the initial years, everything is according to the standards, but throughout the year, after second, third, or fourth years, all the quality goes down the hill. Okay, so by having inspection and monitoring, it can help to maintain the quality of the program. Okay, so these are some of the example of licensing requirement. All right, for example, we have the fire safety and emergency plan. Okay, for example, we need to have a fire extinguisher, emergency exit sign, evacuation drill. Okay, we need to ensure that all of these are being done at least twice a year. Okay. On top of that, we need to ensure that we have a safe equipment and learning materials. Okay. Only age-appropriate, non-toxic, CREAM compliance materials are allowed to be used with the children. Okay. So these requirements are meant to protect children and support for accountability. Okay. On top of that, also we have requirement for KKM, okay, health screening for all staff, and also requirement to have a record keeping lah. Okay, for TASCA, even for TADIKA, each of these respective ministry, they have their own requirement for each of the centers to have a list of record. Okay. Now moving on to look at the licensing process. Okay, so licensing process will usually begin by submitting our document, initial document to PBT, the local council, JKM and KPM lah. Okay, so all of this application can include about building plans, staff list, safety document, SOP, rental agreement, and so on lah. Okay, so the authorities will then review all of this document, inspect the premises, okay, and then they will issue approval or if requirement, approval if requirement are met. Okay, so this process will ensure centers are actually fully prepared before they can operate. Okay. Now, after the center has acquired the license, okay, it doesn't stop there. So after licensing, there is an ongoing responsibility. Okay, so licensing does not end after the approval. Okay, center must renew license annually, maintain update documents, and report serious incident. Okay. Surprise inspection may occur if complaints are revealed. All right. Moving on to accreditation. Okay. So accreditation is actually a voluntary quality improvement process, okay, that goes beyond the licensing. Okay. So what happened here? It evaluates the curriculum quality, interaction, leadership, and also the family engagement. Okay. Accredited, forgive me. Okay, accredited center are often seen as a higher and more trustworthy center. Okay, about credentialing. Okay, so credentialing is more to individually. Credentialing will ensure that educators are properly trained and also competent. Okay, for example, it can include the Permata certification, SKM, diploma, or even a higher qualification like degree in early childhood education. Okay, so it helps to ensure competencies for all of the staff, okay, or practitioners. Okay, because once they have the credentialing, okay, credential staff usually demonstrate knowledge in the child development lah, okay, pedagogy, safety, and also ethical conduct. So these are some of the example of credential in Malaysia. Okay, we have Permata, SKM, diploma in early child education, degree, and also teaching permits from KPM lah. This one for tadika teachers, right? Now, in this unit also, I have provide a short class activity which you can do with your peers in the class, or maybe you can do by yourself as well. Okay, there are two sort of a case study that you can do. All right, so that will be all for this unit this week. I shall be seeing you again, inshallah, on our next topic in unit 3. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Bye.